Welcome to Unsuccessful. We're your hosts, Jen.
And I'm Brandi, and this is the podcast where we admit out loud
that we suck.
So if life has ever felt like a dumpster fire,
you're in the right place.
Well, let's get into it.
This week on Unsuccessful, we're unpacking the messy, anxiety-induced world of commitment. Ugh. From tattoos and relationships to business and burnout. Why does the idea of permanence give us the ick? And how much of it is rooted in trauma, control, or just plain fear of making the wrong choice? We're getting personal, we're getting honest, and yep, it gets a little uncomfortable, but that's where the good stuff is. So if you've ever struggled with sticking around, locking it in, or saying yes, without secretly planning your exit strategy, this one's for you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and screenshot your favorite moment to share with us at Unsuccessful Podcast. We love hearing what's landing with you. Let's get into it. Hey, Brandi.
Hi, Jen. Welcome back.
Welcome back to the Unsuccessful Podcast.
Where we suck and you do too.
That's okay. Let's just get these buttons figured out here. There you go. So we don't see my breasts while I'm chatting.
It would be the worst thing in the world.
Maybe Nick will finally watch it.
I get more views.
We're going viral.
Although on the podcast, I guess it's only if it's on YouTube. Right? Yeah.
We're on YouTube, full video.
Yes. Watch us on YouTube.
We're sharing a mic today because our other mic died. And did you hear the conclusion of the last episode? Brandi doesn't listen either. So on the conclusion of last week's episode, I said, and next week on Unsuccessful, surprise, we have no idea what we're talking about because we didn't record. So we're recording today, and this is the surprise that we have for you.
So funny. Oh my gosh. I'm like, no, what did we say? Okay, we did say that.
Yeah. So today we actually decided to talk about commitment, I think. Did we fully decide that?
We decided. We didn't even decide before chatting, sitting down here. We just texted yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, Jen texted me and share with them what you said.
There's two parts to this, and Brandi thinks they're connected and I don't. So this is why the episode will be interesting, but I know what you're thinking. I'm shaking my finger.
Do you now?
I know. I think I do. But it'll go probably in a million different ways.
Yeah.
So Brandi told me a story last summer. It was actually about 1 year ago, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At the end of school. And Brandi told a story about, she'll tell you the story about.
Well, she'll tell you the story.
She'll tell you the story.
I'll tell you the story.
About Brent.
About my husband.
Yeah, about her husband. Yeah. And does he care if you talk about it?
Oh, gosh, no.
Okay.
Oh, gosh.
He'll probably learn.
Oh, no, this is funny that we've talked about it.
So today we're talking about commitment. And the reason why commitment came up is because Brandi told me a story a year ago about Brent, about her husband and her. And as she was telling me the story, I had this revelation. I was like, it's not just me. I have commitment issues too.
Interesting.
And it was really, really, really interesting how I realized that we both had this thing in common. And we've kind of talked about it a little bit. Now, on the flip side of this, when I texted Brandi to talk about this commitment issue, I also thought on the other side about, I believe what I said was taking manic action, taking so much action, and then having to kind of deal with the aftermath, right? And how we go
overcommitting.
Overcommitting.
See, that's how I saw it.
You saw it as overcommitting, and I saw it as like these massive bursts of action that we take. Mm-hmm. So you just have a day where you sit down, you focus, and you put so much out there. Like if you get every single thing on your to-do list plus more out, and then you're like, whew, got that off my plate. And then all of a sudden the next day you're bombarded with triple the amount of things you have to do because you put so much energy into the response and the momentum that builds with that. So that was kind of where I was going with that. But yes, on the other hand too, I think there is a part of commitment and then overcommitting and absolutely being very, very linked. So let's talk about the fear of commitment and overcommitting. And then next week or the week after, then we'll talk about this manic action. Okay. Because I think, do you agree that they're possibly two different things?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So,
different angles.
So we're going to come back to that. So you'll have to tune in the weeks coming to make sure that you catch our one on taking massive and perfect action and the consequence of doing so. So anyway, Brandi, tell us about your story.
My story. Okay, so this story is kind of funny. So goes back to, I don't like tattoos. So I guess we'll just start there. You know what? It's really interesting. I'm fascinated with tattoos. I love tattoos on other people. Literally, I follow on Instagram all these incredible artists and tattoos because I love the artistry. I love the story. I love what they mean for people. I love the expression. These are things that I just absolutely adore and I love. And I have this thing where I can admire tattoos from afar. I do not have a tattoo. And so it's this connection with commitment and tattoos for me. This permanence thing. It's always kind of been there, and it's okay that I can kind of control that, right? Like it has never been really connected to me. I can control the fact that I don't get a tattoo. And but on other people, great, go do your thing. And so just, we can talk about all the why and where that comes from, but really it's a permanent thing. Right? When you really think about it. So my husband, he's a firefighter paramedic, as if you all watched the episode with the boys and the husbands. That's what he does. And for years and years, he's worn a plastic, one of those rubber wedding rings. He hasn't worn his wedding ring in years. And so he wears one of those. And then he was kind of tired of it. And for years, he's talked to me about getting a tattoo on his ring finger. And I just kind of thought, I was like,
not serious.
And it's not serious. And he just kind of would talk about it here and there. And I just kind of brushed him off. And the funny thing is I actually don't wear a wedding ring either because I'm allergic to my wedding ring. So, and I'm like, okay, it's weird that now he's all of a sudden wanting to do this. And I guess, but there's a few people at the department that, gotten the tattoos and he's like, they're really nice. And so he kind of had kept bringing it up. And
I mean, for safety reasons, when you're in trades or in the industry, you can't wear a ring if you didn't know this because you could lose a finger by wearing a wedding ring. It's actually very dangerous.
And he sees that, right? He's seen it.
Yes, he's seen it. He's the one that's putting the finger back together.
So anywho, but it was funny because again, I didn't really think he was too serious. And then, finally, I could tell the one day he came in and he was quite serious. And I got woozy. I literally got woozy. And I was like, oh, I need a minute here. I don't know if I can deal with this. And he's like, we've been married, it'll be 20 years this year. He says to me, he's like, I think we're pretty committed. We've got, 3 kids. We've been through all this stuff together. We have 2 dogs, 2 cats. We've been married 20 years, been together 23 years. I think we're committed. What, are you okay? It was really hard. I was going to throw up. And I was like, I know. I don't know. I have this visceral response. I can't figure it out. Obviously the topic of the conversation is this commitment and this permanence. And then I said, okay, I finally was like, okay, it's your body, and okay. So then he is talking to me about some designs. He's sharing a few things. And again, I didn't realize how fast this was going to progress. And he is sharing a few things with me. And, my name's B, but his name's B too. And he was like, I'll put a B there. And I was like, he's like, oh, and then I took inspiration and he was kind of showing me some things he's seen online from my logo, my Brandi logo that I made years ago that I don't even like the B. I don't even like the B.
So thoughtful.
But he's thoughtful, but see, this is why I don't get a tattoo. I liked it how many years ago? Now I don't like it. This is why I don't want a permanent thing. Anyway, so I was kind of like, okay, but I'm like, no, I don't like that B and whatnot. Anyway, he goes, all of a sudden I'm having a busy day and I knew that he had some sort of appointments. I don't even know, it was on the calendar. And all of a sudden though, I see a calendar notification literally 2 minutes before I'm hopping into a very important meeting that says tattoo touch up. What?
This kills me. Linked calendars. So funny.
Tattoo touch up? Where's the tattoo? So I text him. I'm like, tattoo touch up? Question mark. He's like, yeah, I just got
it touched up.
Just got a tattoo. Just got my tattoo. And I'm like, I literally wrote, I'm going to throw up. And then I hop into this meeting and I'm just like, I can't even the visceral response. And again, I've spent a year. Jen and I we talked about this a year ago. I've spent a year, I understand obsessing this. And, it's very nice. It's fine. It's lovely on him. I'm used to it. I'm over it. But it is this, that's where it's fascinating to me. So when he first asked me to marry him, I had the exact same feeling, which is funny. It's hilarious.
I feel like I'm going to throw up.
Yes. He asked me to marry him, and I literally laid in bed all night wanting to vomit.
Was he beside you?
Did he
And
know?
he's just having the best sleep of his life.
Did he know about, like I said, yes. And like, did he know about the fact that I felt like this for probably, I mean, I think I told him like 10 years ago.
We need to do another episode.
Yeah. But I was scared.
Yeah.
Huge fear. And then what was interesting is, so my husband and I, before we got married, I think it was right after we got engaged, my mom gave us a book of, 1,001 questions to ask before you get married. And we actually were just talking about this book again recently. And in that book, I'll never forget it because it asks about your family history. So this is one of my first introductions to your environment, the nurture nature, and how that impacts those automatic behaviors and limiting beliefs and your value system. 19, well, no, I shouldn't say 19. When we got engaged, I was 21. I was engaged at 21. Just turned 21, 2 days after my 21st birthday.
Oh my God.
I got engaged. I know.
Happy birthday.
I was
get
sick
real
too.
close to my
I
mouth.
was sick too. It was so funny. I was like snotty. Anyway, I always find the best times. Hey,
No.
he was so nervous. This book, it talks about your parents and how they view marriage. And the first question was, are your parents, still together or are they divorced? And then it talks about the impact of that. And so, like it or not, children of divorce have this mindset of that marriage isn't really permanent. Like, you can have that ideal and you can say that and, it is forever, but you know what? Your experience is like, well, there's an out, right? Versus somebody that was, raised in a house where their parents are still together. They've been happily married, and they have a different experience where, yeah, marriage is really, this is marriage. Like, this is my experience. And so the experiences and how that affects you. And so that was really when I learned that, yes, like marriage is for life, but I don't like that because of my experience. Like, I was a child of divorce. So this is my experience. And then I think that's where that, like, again, me having this connection with tattoos and being permanent, and then the commitment and then the tattoo symbolizing more of that permanence. Mm-hmm. And so that was the stuff that I was going through at that time.
So when you think about other things outside of your relationship, obviously commitment, there's a whole bunch of different ways that you commit to things, right? Mm-hmm. You commit to functions, you overcommit to, especially entrepreneurs, maybe we overcommit to doing things, and there's so many different ways. So when it comes to committing to other things, like think of other big relationships, how does this appear? Mm-hmm. How does this come to the surface that way for you?
Well, there's just always an out.
And so I
shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that. There's always an out. It's taken into consideration that, it's more serious. It's serious, right? I know this is a tough one because this is a tough question. I want to hear what you have to say.
So for me, I know when my fear of commitment started as far as relationships go. Mm-hmm. And now that I've become aware of it, there's been so many different times, especially in the last few years, where I really see things through the lens of nothing being permanent. Nothing is ever permanent. And I think that that's really good and freeing. I've started to look at it very differently now in a way of embracing it, instead of having it be fear driven, right? Mm-hmm. So that visceral reaction you get when you're like, I'm gonna barf. When something comes up, when you feel trapped, right? Mm-hmm. And so for you, I'm wondering if that is part of control, making sure that you ultimately have control, and that fear of not having control. So more so than seeing when your 100%. When your family, when your parents split up, how did you feel in that moment? Did you feel very out of control in that situation? Because here you were and these things were happening, and you as a kid, that can be very, very scary. Does it come from that and this kind of like control or the lack thereof? Yeah. Right.
It probably does. But I mean, I was 5 years old. So it's And these are things that, of course, staying with my therapist about, like, not specifically, but indirectly, like there's things that come up and then you kind of go back there and then you kind of unpack it, right? But control for sure.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things I've really worked on in the last 5 to 8 years is releasing control. I was so controlling. I see it so much in previous relationships. And when I talk about relationships, I talk about my work relationships as well. So I was like senior management, and that went with like having the control over what was going on. And when I didn't know in the senior management position what was happening, I mean, again, I was young. Like I was operations manager when I was 30. So yes, I think 30 is young still, because you're going through, you're learning so much about other people. But that in itself, working to have that authority, was part of being able to have that control. So
it's interesting. Like, yeah, I know I have control issues, but on the other side, there's an aloofness about me, though, that also doesn't get too close, right? So that I don't.
Right. So you can go.
So I can go.
Yeah.
So that's the control piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're in control. It's the aloofness.
Because if you get close to people and if you insert yourself and you give them your full heart and you give them all your love, and then they take off, that fucking hurts. That really hurts your heart. That really hurts you. So it's this protective layer. And so I went through, when I realized the commitment issues, number one, when I built Teacup Tiny Homes, I always built it to sell it. That's what I thought. Everything I'd learned about business was, what's your exit strategy, right? And so I spent probably, I mean, even when I was in senior management at that point at Avonlea, I was thinking like, okay, I'm going to, at one point it was talked about or alluded to me being the general manager, right? I was going to be the one who was like in charge. And, so I spent a lot of time, looking at succession planning and what does this look like? I think probably part of that, looking at succession planning, I realized like there's no succession for me here in this family business. Right. So seeing that, I learned a ton about succession planning and business and all the things going through that. And then that made me create Teacup. I said, I'm going to sell in 10 years. I'm going to build this business up for 10 years. And I'm going to sell it at year 10. And so I went into this with this strategy of it never lasting a lifetime. And when I started to, all the things happened in 2021 and 2022 when Dad got sick. It was the first time I ever thought that my parent would not be with me on this planet. No more permanence, right?
Yeah.
Gone. Just fucking gone, right? And then relationships. I started to realize how much my big relationships play a part. So my high school boyfriend, talk about this. Again, yes, I was very controlling, but I have been able to look back and see certain things that happened in a relationship where there were betrayals. And that just made me kind of like try to control it more, and him for that sake. And I had a lot of work too. I was extremely controlling in that relationship. I didn't like who I was when I was with him at all. Didn't like who I was, right? And so the fear of that continued. When I was 23, I read the book The Secret. And I had been single, right, for probably like three years when I was, and I think that's a long time when you're 20 years old. Brandi's over here getting married. Like, I'm just at the Roadhouse asking DJ Junior to play Boots with the Fur.
Oh my God.
It was the same time.
It was the same time.
So in that, I
that was my husband, by the way.
DJ
Junior is my husband. Yeah. I married the DJ.
So I read the book, The Secret, and I was like, oh my God, I can change. That was the first time that anything came up in my life of where this growth mindset and
that's cool.
Manifesting stuff. Yes, I remember it very well. So I wrote down this list of things that I wanted in a man in my life. And then my ex showed up. And when I was 23 and he was very lovely. I forgot to mention a few things on that list that were very important, but that's why you're young. You don't know, right? So going into that relationship, I promised myself when I was 23 that I never wanted to be who I was in this high school relationship anymore. I never wanted to be that person. And it started off really good. I was like, it's like I didn't have enough trauma around this one thing for it to take a permanent place in my brain. It was just like a small T at that point, the one breakup. Going through the next 6 years of this next relationship, I feel like the traumas just got deeper and more connected. And that's where in this relationship, I felt like I needed stability. There wasn't stability. I needed stability. I really wanted to get married. I really wanted to be married. So interesting thing about this relationship is that he often said, I just want to have little babies with you. And I was like, oh, that's so cute. That'd be so fun. I always wanted to be a mom. And yet he wouldn't marry me. And that was so confusing because he actually told me one time, he said, marriage is so permanent. So he saw it. He saw marriage as being this permanent thing and it terrified him. But yet having children together wasn't permanent for him. It was really messed up in my brain. It was hard for me to understand. I get it now. I can see it. I can see this now, right? Here we are. Yeah, I get it too. And, you know, he had a lot of work to do too. So funny because he did propose and I was brushing my teeth. Like literally. So when Brandi talks about timing, I was brushing my teeth. So yeah, it was real. Mine wasn't like quite like that. What? Yeah. Is this for real? Anyway, it was really fun. But yeah, I learned a lot. I learned a lot from him, and I did again, same thing. There were more betrayals, and there was more misalignment. And then I found.
Did you say yes?
I did say yes. Yeah, I did say yes, but I don't know if there was ever actual intent. There might have been
to follow through.
But it happens a lot. Yes, exactly. And this is part of this fear of commitment. And I actually was watching YouTube videos this morning about it, knowing that we were going to talk about it.
Oh, this is fun.
Yeah. So
I did not research.
Yes. Jen. I know. I never do this. Brandi's usually the researcher.
I wouldn't say that. Anyway.
Oh, ChatGPT it up. Anyway. So I think the misalignment comes in when you're continually being something that you're not to appease this other person. And that gives you a lot of anxiety and fear of, this is what this lady said in this YouTube video, is when you're always acting and then you need to commit to this act that you're putting on. Subconsciously.
To the act.
Yes. Subconsciously or consciously, you start to panic because you're feeling like, oh my God, I'm going to have to spend the rest of my life pretending to be this person. And so whether it's things that you just don't see, that you see in this person that you don't like, it's not them, right? It's never them. It's always you. What's triggering this? Like you have to pretend that you like this thing about this person. So the example that this lady gave, I wish I could remember it. Maybe I'll post it below. This example that this lady gave was when you get the ick, right? What Netflix show was that on? What was it? With Kristen, with the,
Yeah. Well, nobody wants this.
Nobody wants this. So if nobody wants this, she talks about the ick. Yes. And he comes in, he's got his basketball shorts on, he puts a blazer on, and he just found in the back of the car because he wants to impress her parents or something. And she gets the ick. And it was the first time that I've really heard it that way. Because how many times as a woman, or maybe as a man, that you you're in this relationship with someone, and then they do something like, oh, fuck, and you want to just turn and burn because it freaks you out. So the ick isn't, the way she put it was, maybe he looks at you, you wake up in the morning, he's staring at you with this big baby doll eyes, like he loves you so much, and you are so turned off by it because maybe he's being too vulnerable. Maybe it appears like he's being childish in that moment. That's a big one for me. And you feel like when he does that, you have to nurture him and be a parent figure. And subconsciously, you just know that it's too hard to be a parent to an adult, and you don't want that in your relationship. So you get this feeling of this ick, right? And so it's not about that other person doing the things. It's about what's going on inside of you that's triggering that. And then you end up fixating on it and getting resentful about these things. And then you end up pulling away. And if you slowly pull away from said relationship, and start putting up walls and putting up boundaries because you're just afraid to make yourself vulnerable and have those hard conversations, then it's really easy to just remove yourself from it. It's easy to remove yourself from the relationship that you don't want anymore because you've created these walls and it doesn't hurt as bad, right?
Yeah. And
so the scariest thing when it comes to commitment for me is when I love hard. I'm a Pisces. I'm a lover, big time. I commit. And the thing is I do commit. When I say I'm going to do something, I'm there. See, all the time. Let me finish this one thought. I commit and I'm in it to win it. If I say I'm going to play baseball for a baseball team, I am there every Monday, and God damn it, I'm going to bring the bats and the balls. And if I play volleyball, I'm the ball girl, and I am 100% because I love it. I like it. When I'm in relationships, I give my whole heart. And in the past, when I've done that, it's ended up that they haven't wanted that for their reasons. And that freaking hurts. It is like the worst feeling.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say is like, that's where I was going with this in the beginning of the connection between the fear of the commitment and the over the commitment. And then because like I'm the same, I will only commit if I know I can commit to something. However, there's probably an out or a perceived out in some way. I think that's something for safety. And I think like in the last year and a half, I've learned a little bit about having those out conversations early and just having the conversations. Like, what does that look like in business specifically? And that's one thing that I've learned is what does an exit look like in business? I've never actually really thought about exit other than like build to sell and just like, moving forward and all the things to do to get there. But when you're actually there, there's a huge difference.
Yep.
Like actually thinking about that moment in time and that's what's happened to me the last couple of years is what happened. What does that look like? And having some sort of input in what that looks like as well, and understanding what you want, right, out of it.
Right. And so staying on the topic of the business is because I built Teacup, I built it on the backbone of getting out and not longevity. And when I decided that I was shutting it down 2 years ago, it was more of a flight for me, a flight response.
Yep.
I'm not going to fight. I'm going to flight. I've been fighting for so long.
Yeah.
I'm exiting. And it was what I see now looking back is there was just this, it's done, like this severing a relationship, similar to what I did in previous relationships.
Sorry, this is good. Yeah.
It's deep, right?
Yeah. No. This is, I feel exactly the same way. And I love this. This is my favorite part of the conversation right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with the business, severing it, when I broke up with my high school boyfriend, I was done. I returned a week later. He broke up with me. I returned his box of things. We had a terrible big cry moment. Yeah. It was very hard on both of us from what I remember. And I didn't talk to him for 2 months. Not at all. There was no back and forth. I'd never broken up with someone before, but it was done. We were done. And then I saw him 2 months later and he, of course, he said something like, I just thought we would have stayed in touch. I just thought we would have like continued to talk. Like I still want to be around you. Like, and it was too much for him. My control was too much for him. Obviously, we were 19 years old, 18, 19 years old. Right. And I was like, well, you broke up with me. Like, no, like that was so bizarre. Just like you broke up with me. We are done. We're going our separate ways. And he thought that there would still be this like lingering relationship without the commitment. Right. So he could still have the best of me, but without being committed to me. And I was just like, no, the commitment's over. So when I came back from the cruise, and you can listen to my story on episode 2, when I came back and everything seemed like it was going terrible for me, I thought that it needed to be this very defining moment of it's done and you're done and you shut her down. Yeah. But it wasn't. And what I realized now, like I said before, is that was me running away from a situation where I had no control over and I didn't know what to do and I was scared. Yeah. And then even the cruise itself was me running away. It was me running away and trying to get away. I just wanted to get away. I wanted to get away from it. I wanted to get away from the grief that my dad is now fucking gone. I wanted to get away from the business that was hard. Yeah. Interest rates were going up. It was getting harder. And I felt like it was always hard. It had always been hard because I didn't do it in a way that was easy. But it was, again, this dad dying was the straw that broke the camel's back, where I was just running from what was like. I needed to get away from my kids. I needed a break. I wasn't emotionally in a place where I could handle them. And as a parent, that's you need to be emotionally regulated. I couldn't emotionally regulate myself. And Nick was really that one thing that was the permanent, right? And he was that rock. He was that stability because he saw that I needed that, which was really, really great for us. So yeah, the commitment and the flight side, I think that we do this in relationships too. And what I did in my business, I could have done actually, there have been times where Nick and I have talked about not being together. We're not married. And is there safety in that? Yes. Was there have been betrayals in our relationship? because I've had these betrayals before, I've been able to go into them with maturity, with empathy, not only for him and for myself, and work through it instead of just taking flight and getting the flight out of there, and getting out. And that's what I've learned about this process, is the pattern kept repeating for me from high school boyfriend to, 20-year-old fiance, and that breakup, and then into Nick and a more mature relationship, is that I saw this pattern repeating and I knew it was me. And then I've continued.
Then you're like, it's a me problem.
It's always a me problem. Always. It's not a him problem. And we worked through it together, and he was there to work through it together with me. So going back to that commitment, is there a commitment? Yeah, there's an unspoken commitment. Do I have a ring on my finger? No. Would I like a ring on my finger? I don't know. Maybe this fear of committing to him wouldn't be there if we were married. Maybe I would be in our relationship and have the idea of permanence if we were actually married. Because my parents were together. I grew up, my parents were together until my dad died. Maybe not always happily. But there are other things that can come in. So those are all things that I wonder, but just wondering about it makes you more aware so that you can work through it.
You never want to sell a business in a flight position.
No, because both of us tried to do that.
So I have sold 2 businesses, one in a power position and one in a not power position. Guess which one I would do and choose to do again and over. That is, and they say that, and you don't really, and I think what's funny is like, you don't know which position you're in until maybe after, or unless you have really good people beside you, holding up a mirror to really pull you out of that. Anywho, that's just my...
There are consequences, and let's just paint them with the same brush, because I think personal relationships and business relationships, it's the same energy, right? If we look at the energy. And so if you leave out of, whenever you're making a big life decision, you just need to make sure that you're in a good place, right?
You have to, absolutely. You have to, the decision making in what it is, you have to really take your time and step back into it.
I mean, and now whenever I do a post like this about staying in a relationship, I do believe staying in relationships and working through your shit in that relationship is powerful. Staying in the relationship and doing the work with the devil you know versus the devil you don't. It will keep repeating. If you don't do the work, if you go into a different business, it will repeat until you do the work in a different relationship. That being said, I always think about domestic violence on the side whenever I say something like that. And obviously safety is first and foremost.
100%.
But I think at the same time, when you're in a domestic violence, of course there's going to be fight or flight, right? But at the same time, I think that there will be a point where you will permanently make those decisions to leave, and you'll do it in a way that is safe for you and your family instead of a way of just fleeing and it being unsafe. Like if there's children involved and that kind of thing. Make sure that you are looking out for your safety at the same time. Yeah. I think that is the fine print. I don't know.
Right? Yeah, you did. You did good. Yeah, you did good. Okay. Well, we really touched on a lot.
So do we want to talk about overcommitting, or do we want to
Yeah, I think, that's where I find them connected, because, I don't know. Where was I going with this?
So talking about overcommitting, remember back said 15 minutes ago, when I was talking about how your fear of commitment is because you're being a person that isn't you, and you're afraid to do that.
So cool.
When you're overcommitting because you're saying yes to things that you don't want to say yes to. And you're overcommit necessarily sometimes, right? So you kind of want to do it. I can always talk myself into doing things. I get really excited about stuff. I like to do a lot of things. I want to experience things. And so I'll say yes and then regret it and then feel like I have to carry through on this. And it takes a lot of energy out of it. Yes. And it's exhausting.
Well, this is what they say. If it's not a fuck yes, no, it's a fuck no. And I know for me, I was just in a coaching, I've hired a coach and was in this group coaching call. And one of the things I did say is I said, I've always been the answer is yes. What's the question? And that's something that I've taken along with me, not just in a customer service capacity, but as a philosophy for just everything in my life. And that's not good. And in fact, I find that I say no more times, like, especially in the last few years. And it's becoming more and more, like I'm saying no more and more, and really taking a step back and saying, is this a fuck yes? Or is this, what's the why behind it? And even if it isn't necessarily like a, like, huge, like, just like a no-brainer, because here's the thing, the no-brainers are very few and far between, like very few and far between. Yeah. And so I do think, though, that we have to, like, can't just be like shutting down. Maybe, though, like, maybe this is where I need to grow and change. Like, maybe I need to just, anytime there's like I love opportunity, right? Yes. And moving, and like, maybe it's not like this is a stepping stone to the fuck yes. I don't know, right? But I think we need to take some time to just really like figure out that, like, why. And there was something I was on my brain today. There was something I was gonna say along those thoughts. Anyway, you think you said something?
Well, and then again, in alignment with committing and overcommitting to Bob Proctor, he would always say, you don't know, you can't get to where you're going if you don't know what that is. Like, so you really have to define what that looks like and what you want in your life. And I talked about doing the 20-point checklist of what I wanted in my man, and forgetting, the next 5 that were really important. And not writing them down. I think they were just given to that point. But again, you're not thinking about those things. They're not on your reticular activation system kind of until you have to experience it. Yes. So sometimes you have to experience the thing before you know that it's a no. And then that comes to with having boundaries. Once you know it's a no, then it's a no. Like, it's a no. Yeah. And when you get pushback from either people or just things happening, you really have to make sure that you have those strong boundaries. So another part of this YouTube video that I watched, she talked about boundaries. And I talk about boundaries. How often are I talking about boundaries? So many of our problems that we have are because of boundaries and not knowing how to create them, stick with them, help the people around you with them. You think that you say it once and you don't have to repeat it, but doesn't just go for the people around you. It goes for yourself. You create that boundary and then you have to stick with it, and you'll try and test it, and you'll try and break through that boundary that you've just set, because you're like, maybe I want to play ball and be too busy. Like, if I call grandparents, they could take the kids to the thing on like Monday and Wednesday, and then maybe I'm pretty sure I could wiggle that in there. And then if I leave this wherever the hell at 4:30, I can get there on time. Like, no, that's a no. Yeah, don't just say no, because you'll be super stressed out, and then you're going to tax your adrenals and your nervous system. Yeah. Then you're going to end up sick. Yeah, for sure. And you're going to end up like a bunch of commitment folks sitting on a sofa in a living room. It's Friday morning, not Tuesday afternoon this time. Talking about shit. Bunch of commitment folks. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting how we're commitment phobes that overcommit. Yeah. Or can overcommit. And I think that comes with experience too, right? Where you're just like, and having, again, maybe the illusion of control, that you can control it. I don't know. I have FOMO. I definitely have FOMO. Yeah. So do I. Like, if I didn't say yes to doing this with you, if I said no and you then did it with someone else, I would be like so sad that I hadn't said yes. Yeah. It's good. I think this is a great outlet. And, I just want to say that I appreciate everybody's feedback as well, and like the comments and the messages, and for listening. I think it's been amazing. So I think we have to be like not as hard on ourselves either too. So give yourself some grace. Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know. This was a good chat. It was a good chat. Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm coming back to, can we just quickly go back to that lady, what she said about commitment and the fear of you not being able to be yourself? Yes. Okay. With that lens and me and my tattoo issue, where's that playing? What do you think, Jen? Let's see. So, because my husband always says to me that it's because I'm also like choosing the tattoo as like the symbol, right? There's a lot of meaning. Like, to me, I have tattoos and they do have a lot of meaning. Like, is it, and potentially there's other things going around that. Obviously the culture around tattoos has changed significantly. Like, everybody has tattoos now, and it's just much more acceptable, and it's not as acceptable but praised, but like there was a time when I, was growing up where it wasn't, was a sign of kind of lower class, or, like
lower intelligence. Like, so
Okay.
for me,
Does
like,
that come up when you think about tattoos?
and I think it does. I think if I was to be honest with myself, it does.
Yep.
And I think that why I've also been so fascinated and have like this weird fascination with tattoos is that I'm trying to understand and I'm trying to be more accepting and open. And I'm trying to, and then that's like I'm because I am a person that doesn't also like believe in that really. Like I believe every single person, you know, should be valued and has value and that kind of thing. So I definitely battle with this, you know, these like, you know, who I am, what I believe kind of values with this other like rhetoric.
All right. So
I got it.
No, I got it. Go back to episode 3. If we go back to episode 3, which is Brandi's episode. No, was it in episode 3 that we talked about this?
Yeah, episode 3. My episode. Maybe it wasn't. Okay, well,
anyway, go back a few episodes. And it was between like episode 3 and 5. And you talked about how your teacher in school and you were in the hallway.
Yeah.
And there was this image that you had to uphold. Like, how can you be hanging out with these kids
100%.
looking this way? And so when you were just talking about that, that's what popped into my mind of now this limiting belief. It was the limiting beliefs episode. Has maybe like your perception of how image and how presentation, how you present yourself,
identity
is tied to your identity and who you are as a human being.
Yeah.
So maybe that is less about the permanence. I do think the wedding. Yeah, I think that's two different things. The wedding band and Brent getting the B and getting like that is like, oh God, like what if I need to get out of this and he has that.
But it's a double whammy.
Yeah.
It's like both. Like that's why I felt like I was going to throw up.
Yeah.
It's like commitment stuff.
And image.
Yeah.
And so what is it? This is we got to get.
And I'm like, I love the tattoo people.
Once Brandi figures out her tattoo thing, I think we should do another episode.
I think that's what it is, to be honest. I mean, unless there's something else or like a specific moment, which I do have one tattoo moment.
Yeah.
My husband and I were talking about it the other day. So my stepbrother, I was there so he's covered in tattoos. And I was there the morning of when he first got his first tattoo. He happened to be living with us at the time, which he didn't live with us. And then I think he was like 18 and I was like 14 and I woke up for school that morning, come up the stairs, going to get my breakfast, and he'd been partying all night, right? As you do when you're 18. And he said, Brandi, look, I got a tattoo. And he showed me his tattoo. And his tattoo was Bambi in cross arrows.
Oh God.
I know. Yeah.
Disturbing.
Disturbing. Anyway, he's like pretty cool. Hey. And I was like,
did you like Bambi?
He's a hunter. That's his, you know, and we just have different, like I'm not a hunter. I mean, I grew up in a hunting family, so I can talk shop.
As did I. Yeah.
A little bit. Although my family would disagree. Like, you know, I just learned what a shed was just like 10 years ago. You know what a shed is? You don't know what a shed is?
Like hunting?
See, you don't know what a shed is. We don't.
Do you know a blind, like a
no. Oh, see,
like a hunting shed?
No, see, that's what you think.
Okay.
No.
Like when they shed the antlers?
Yes.
Oh, well, yeah. God. Yes, a shed. I'm like, what are we talking about? See, but you have like duck blinds and you have like,
I didn't know. I didn't know what that
I actually, here.
You probably have it. You probably have a shed. Of course. Well, thank you for tuning in. And
on this episode of Unsuccessful,
we suck.
And so do you.
But that's okay. Here we go. Good. That's good.
Next week on Unsuccessful, we're joined by the woman, the myth, the legend, Ashlyn Gunderson, podcaster, entrepreneur, fitness coach, and reality TV competitor, for a raw, hilarious, and powerful conversation about identity, motherhood, and what happens when your whole world flips upside down. From business highs to the lowest lows and the pressure of rebuilding from nothing, Ashlyn gets real about what it actually looks like when life gets messy. Oh, and we definitely talk about what it was like to really be on a reality TV show. And yes, it's just as crazy as you'd think. You'll laugh, you might cry, and even if you can't relate, you'll 100% be entertained. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications right here on Unsuccessful, the podcast where we help you suck just a little bit less. See you next time.